India says allegations linking the Indian government to an assassination plot in the US is a matter of concern. New Delhi said this was contrary to government policy. India has already set up a high-level probe to investigate the allegations. These were made by US officials in a court case against an Indian man who was arrested in the Czech Republic, and he was accused of working at the behest of an Indian security official to assassinate a US-based Sikh separatist leader. The Indian official is not named in the indictment, neither is the alleged victim.
US media outlets say this man is the target of an alleged assassination plot by the Indian government, which considers him a terrorist. Gurpatwant Singh Pannu has been organizing a symbolic referendum to create Khalistan, a separate state for Sikhs in India.
These death threats are not new to me because since 2019, the Indian government has labeled me for running a assassination campaign as terrorist. They have desensitized the public in India. They are trying to desensitize the foreign governments. But today it exposed the real truth that who is using violence and who is using votes. We are using votes and they are using violence to suppress our ballots with the bullets.
In the indictment, US prosecutors say an Indian government official, who they did not name, directed the plot to assassinate Pannu. Quoted directly, U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said, "We will not tolerate efforts to assassinate U.S. citizens on U.S. soil and stand ready to investigate, thwart, and prosecute anyone who seeks to harm and silence Americans here or abroad." This indictment comes on the heels of an alleged political assassination of another Sikh activist in Canada. In June 2023, masked gunmen killed Hardeep Singh Nijjar outside a Sikh temple in British Columbia. Nijjar was an associate of Pannu. They were among many targets on a hit list, according to one of the plotters named in the indictment, Nikhil Gupta, who was directed by the Indian official to pay a hitman $100,000 to kill Pannu. That hitman turned out to be an undercover U.S. agent.
And joining me now for more is Manoj Joshi, a distinguished fellow at the think tank The Observer Research Foundation. Mr. Joshi, will these latest charges filed in the United States damage US-India relations?
Well, I think they will introduce an element of chill and also, I would say, undermine a very important element of trust in that relationship.
Do you think it'll also become harder for President Biden to engage with a country that is accused of planning an assassination on US soil?
Certainly, I think, the US record itself is not all that great, meaning they've done all kinds of things all over the world, but yet they have the vanity of insisting that you shouldn't do it on American soil. So the real negative part of this, from India's point of view, has been that this has happened on American soil, and there's an indictment in an American court. And yes, so that could definitely raise issues in the United States, but I still don't think that it would hamper the Biden administration too much.
So when you say an element of chill might be seen in the US-India relationship, what do you mean by that? How will this manifest itself?
Well, as part of the Indian-American relationship, there are all kinds of, there's an important component is of defense and security ties. And there you have intelligence sharing is one area which we go into, plus various joint projects in the defense area. So I think out there you may have a certain hesitancy, but I still think that would be for a somewhat limited period.
The Indian government has called the allegations a matter of concern, and it has started an inquiry. Does India, you think, need to do more to show it is serious about getting to the bottom of these charges?
what's there to get to the bottom of these charges? The fact is, all this shows up the very poor fieldcraft of the Indian intelligence agencies. I would say you go there, you try to hire a hitman, and that hitman happens to be an American agent. So it shows the Indian intelligence system in a fairly poor light. But as I told you, others have been doing it. The United States does it, but it does have the vanity. It is world #1 power that you can do it anywhere else. Don't do it here. And there, I think there will be some cost at some point, but just how those costs will be imposed, I'm not very clear. It is possible that the US could use this to trade off something they want from India. Meaning, this is a fairly ruthless business. People don't really bother about the target. And then, of course, the fact is that this was a thwarted assassination. There was no actual assassination.
Right. This is the second time in 3 months that a country is accusing India of planning an assassination overseas, Canada being the first in September, and we all know how that went down. Surely allegations of this sort damage India's standing as a democracy internationally, don't they?
They do, but as I said, that there is an element of hypocrisy there, because these very democracies, I mean, say, the United States been rampaging all over Afghanistan, bombing people, killing civilians. The Israelis do it in Iran and elsewhere. So I'm saying that it's not there is a huge element of hypocrisy there when democracy is brought into the picture. This is realpolitik, and realpolitik, whether it is Putin or whether it is Biden, they all follow the same imperatives.
Is this also a vindication of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's allegation that India masterminded the killing of another Sikh separatist on Canadian soil in June?
Yeah, I would think so. And the reports today suggest that there may be a linkage between the two. And there is a possibility that more information is available than is being made out. It is because there is a suspicion that the people who killed the Canadian Sikh escaped to the United States. Maybe they were part of the same gang which was involved in this. So I think there could be more here than is being put out.
Now, India had called Trudeau's allegations, quote, absurd and motivated when they came out, but calls it a matter of concern when similar allegations are made in a US indictment. Why the differing responses?
Well, one is, as I said, realpolitik. The United States is a much bigger power than Canada is. The United States matters much more to India than Canada does. And thirdly, the US charge is actually an indictment in court. There is a specific allegation. Names have been named. Officials have been pointed to. The Canadians have not given, to the best of my knowledge, anything anywhere comparable to this kind of information.
So when you, I just want to go back to a point that you have made a number of times in our conversation about realpolitik. So when we talk about realpolitik, and we also look at the issue of hypocrisy, should we also look at India's claims as being the mother of democracy? It prints all of that on the G20 pamphlets, for instance. Any claims such as that, with through a lens of hypocrisy or through a lens of realpolitik?
I think it's hypocrisy as well as ignorance. I would say India is not the mother of democracies. So if someone wants to make it, it's a rhetorical flourish of Prime Minister Modi. But the reality is India is not the mother of democracies. And that was simple rhetoric aimed at looking good at a conference which the government made a huge effort to look good.
So was India being hypocritical there?
Yes, of course.
Let's talk about the Khalistan movement that is at the core of these allegations. Now, this is basically the demand for a separate Sikh state. It barely has any support in India, but amongst some diaspora communities abroad, it lingers on as an issue. Why does the Indian government feel so threatened by it?
You know, it's a very complicated situation. India has had no real terrorist attack almost since 2012. But the present government has built up terrorism as a big issue, really aimed at domestic audiences, basically telling domestic audiences a huge threat out there. And basically, it is kind of dog whistling at Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, many similar killings have gone on in Pakistan as well. Pakistan hasn't quite raised it at the same level, but
right.
Many separatists or terrorists involved in operations against India have been killed in Pakistan.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thanks so much for joining us today. Manoj Joshi from the Observer Research Foundation. Thank you, sir.